resilience, which I think is something we all need in these current times. I think it's fair to say that this COVID nightmare, as I heard it referred to on the news this evening, is starting to get to all of us. So resilience is something that we need. Now, our guest tonight, Irene Wignall, she's an absolutely lovely lady. I've spoken to her a few times online and I have read her book, Look for the Effin Rainbows. I love that. I love that title. It's absolutely brilliant. So Irene is, I'm going to let Irene introduce herself, but she is the author of an absolutely fantastic book, Look for the Effin Rainbows. It is a very, very inspiring book. She has had one hell of a journey over the past few years, which you're going to learn about tonight. But also, I want you to take away the lessons that you can apply to your own life, because resilience is something which we all need. We all have our own personal challenges. COVID and lockdown notwithstanding, we all have our own personal challenges in life, and life can sometimes throw at us some real hard curveballs. So let me introduce Irene Wignall. Welcome, Irene, to the, shall we say, to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show. It's great to have you with us. How are you today?
I'm all right, thank you. Thanks very much for having me.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And I'm really looking forward to sharing with everybody on the event tonight your story, which is an absolutely phenomenal story. So perhaps we could set the scene, Irene. Perhaps you could tell us about how your life was as a child and growing up, just to set the scene.
Yeah, as a child, I live in Bolton. I was brought up in Bolton in Greater Manchester. I am one of three girls, and we weren't well off, but we weren't on the red line. I had quite a just average. I was very loved by my parents and still am, and just an average upbringing really. Yeah, went to college, decided after 6 months it wasn't for me, and then did a couple of jobs and then joined the police force when I was 23.
Fantastic. So you're now married with two boys, plus one in heaven, who we will talk about later. I do feel it is important to acknowledge him as well. So can you please tell us a little bit about your family and how you met your husband, Adam?
Yeah, typically my husband's in the police as well. He's an inspector in the police, and we met. I was in CID. I was a detective in CID, and he came up for some advice. And when he came up for some advice, I remember thinking, I quite fancy him. Never did anything about it. And then about 18 months later, I saw him again, and I thought, right, it's now or never. Ask him out. So I wasn't brave enough to do it face to face. So I sent him a text. And asked him out, and he agreed. And on our first date, I knew I was going to marry him, and so much so that when I was in the taxi on my way home, I told the taxi driver I've just had a date with the man I'm going to marry. Wow. So I didn't tell Adam straight away because I didn't want to show him my craziness, but he's seen that now and he's already married to me now, so I'm lucky.
Yeah, so I think he's a very lucky chap. You certainly got a very lovely personality from what I can see, what we can all see, and your story is extremely empowering, which we are going to hear about as we go through our discussion tonight. So can you tell us a little bit about your two boys?
Yeah, I've got two sons, Ted and Albie, so they are 8 and 6. I got pregnant when I was 34, convinced myself that we was going to have difficulties. I think so much so that my body decided to shut down, and we did have difficulties. So it took us 18 months to get Ted, and we'd had fertility treatment. And so, yeah, Ted arrived, bundle of joy. And yeah, my plan was always to have 2 little girls. And then when Ted arrived, it was a bit of a shock, but I got over it, and I'd explained to Adam, because it took us 18 months to get pregnant in the first place, then maybe we should start quite early. I didn't realise that you're super fertile after you've had a baby. So yeah, we got pregnant quite quickly straight after Ted.
Right. Okay. Well done. Can you please tell us about your, shall we say, your son in heaven, Dusty Wignall? You had quite a traumatic time. Well, I'm not going to spoil it for everyone else. I'll let you tell your story, because it's your story, and you obviously can tell it best. It is very moving, but can you tell us what happened to Dusty, and tell us, the story around that?
Yeah. So like I said, we got pregnant quite quickly. I had a few difficulties throughout the pregnancy, but wasn't overly concerned. And then at 27 weeks, I went for a midwife appointment, just a routine appointment. And I explained to the midwife that I was having very bad stomach pains, and she said that that's normal. So I don't know about you, but if I go to a doctor's, I'm almost apologetic about wasting the time. And I think that's what I was like that day. So I drove away, and by 6 o'clock, I was in extreme pain. We contacted the hospital, and they explained I was in early labour. So they told me to have a bath. I had a bath, my waters broke. They told us to get an ambulance. So we got an ambulance. And by the time I got to the hospital, the delivery suite was full of midwives, doctors, nurses, consultants, and they checked his heartbeat, and they said he's on his way. So they brought in like a little incubator, a little toasty bag that they were going to put him in, and said this will keep him warm. He's going to be a very poor little boy. He's 27, obviously I was only 27 weeks. So I remember my mum coming in, and I said to my mum, he's alive, he's on his way. And with Ted, I contracted sepsis during labour, so I never got to see Ted straight away. So I thought, this is how it's supposed to be. This is how labour is supposed to be, with Adam at one side, my mum at the other side, and I thought everything's going to be all right. And then about 40 minutes later, they checked for his heartbeat again, and they explained that there was no longer a heartbeat. So all of a sudden, the room emptied. The incubator went, the toasty bag went, and there was just 2 midwives left. And they explained that I was still going to have to give birth to our little boy, which was traumatic, as you can understand.
Yeah, imagine.
And they asked me the question of when he arrived. We'd already decided we were calling him Dusty. So when Dusty arrived, did we want to see him? And I thought, of course I want to see him. I want you to put him on my chest like you would any baby, and I want you to kiss him and inhale him. Of course. So we did. We spent 12 hours with Dusty that day. And if somebody told me 10 years prior to this, that's what I would have been doing that day. I'm not sure how I would have felt about it. But actually being in that situation, it felt like the most natural thing in the world to be doing. We chatted to him. We told him about his brother. We told him what his life would have been like at home. So yeah, then the time came, we had to take him down to the mortuary, and at Bolton Hospital, the maternity ward is on one end and the mortuary is on the other, with all the other bits in between. So it's a bit like life, really. And we had to walk from the maternity ward to the mortuary and hand our baby over. And that was the only walk we ever had with our son, Dusty. And actually, it was his birthday yesterday. He would have been 7 yesterday.
Oh. So. I mean, losing Dusty was clearly very traumatic for you, and I do sincerely offer you my condolences to you and your family, and I'm sure everybody else here will. You've spoken in your book about the lessons that you learned, and how you found the strength to get through this very sad time for you. What were the lessons that you took away, and how did this traumatic time make you stronger?
The lesson I've learned, I've only realised, like in the last few years, that to get through grief, you have to accept each stage and get through each stage, accepting it to get to the next stage. initially I drank a lot of wine when it first happened,
That's expected.
yeah, but that just delayed the inevitable. Basically, I had to feel, I had to go through it to get through it. And I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason, and I really struggled with what the reason was. But now, 7 years later, I've wrote a book about it, I've spoken about it, and you don't realise other people have got things in their life and they need to hear your story of how you got through it and how you did laugh again in the end, and life is good. So the reason that I met Dusty for those 12 hours is so that I could help other people get through shitty times in their life, basically.
I mean, that's very, very, very empowering. I'm sure everybody else will agree. And you said that you feel this has given you the strength to help others in this current time. A lot of people are going through a lot of loss, whether it's loss of a loved one due to COVID or due to some other life-threatening illness, which may have been exacerbated by COVID, or perhaps even loss of a business which they've worked hard over the years to build up, and that is their baby, if you think about it. So what advice or encouragement would you have for anyone in such a situation?
See, I'm very much a person looking forward all the time. I always have big dreams in my head, and so I'm guilty of this, that sometimes, like I have a 5-year plan, I have a 2-year plan, but sometimes you need to look back and think, where was I 5 years ago, and all those great things that I've achieved in that last 5 years, and give yourself a pat on the back. And even if a business has failed, the experience and the knowledge that you've gained in the time, that's not gone to waste. You can put that again to something bigger and better. So whatever situation you are in, you'll always gain something from it. And if you look at it as a positive rather than what you're losing, I think personally, that's the way to move forward. And accept that you, like a business is, if it's your baby, you're gonna grieve going if you've lost a business.
Absolutely.
So accept that you have to go through those stages as well. And once you accept it, I think it becomes a lot easier.
Absolutely, like you said, whether you are losing a loved one or losing a business, which is like your baby, there is going to be a grieving process. So that's an experience which can be transferred to both situations. But that wasn't the only traumatic experience that you had. You say in your book that you also had a serious health challenge. Can you tell us about that, and again how this made you stronger as a result?
Yes, so Ted and Albie were 4 and 2. I was very tired, and I just thought, is this life? Is life just tiring? And I went for a couple of blood tests, nothing was wrong, so I just thought, yeah, it's just me being lazy. Then I went for a hearing test, and I was diagnosed, I had an MRI after that, and I was diagnosed with a brain tumour in 2018, which initially I was really angry about, because I just thought, like my husband had said, like, we're strong, we can get through this. And I just thought, why should I have to go through another testing time when I've already proven to people how strong I am? Give this brain tumour to somebody who's not just lost a baby. And that's my initial thoughts. And for about a week, I just felt sorry for myself, which I think is allowed. But yeah, I had brain surgery last March, 10 hours in surgery, and they removed all the tumour. But the things that I've got out of that is things that there are lots of things out of our control, even like more so now with COVID. And I always thought that if you led a good life, then good things would happen. But it's not the case,
It
and
doesn't happen
bad
like that,
things,
does it?
no, and bad things do happen. But it's to just not to. You've got to choose. I chose whether I was going to let myself go under, which I could have easily done, and get depressed, or bring myself back up. And that's what I chose to do. And after the brain tumour, I was told to rest because my brain was in shock after you have brain surgery. So that's when I decided to write the book. And yeah, so good things can come out of bad things. And it's like the title, look for the effing rainbows, because they will be there no matter how faint.
Yes, I'm reminded of the Napoleon Hill's quote, that out of every adversity comes a seed of an equal or greater opportunity, or an equal or greater benefit. And I think you've definitely proven that. So absolutely, congratulations to you. I take my hat off to you. You have been through a lot. To lose a child at childbirth, and then to be told that you've got a brain tumour. It's one of the two biggest things that anybody could go through. So one thing I did especially enjoy about the book was the fact that at the end of every chapter, you listed things that you were grateful for. So which I think is an admirable quality. So how have those things that you were grateful for helped you, and why do you think it's especially to be grateful in our lives, especially in these current times?
Well, the three things I were grateful for, that's what I started them after Dusty passed away. And they could be something minute as the house. Well, it's not minute, but a roof over my head. If I couldn't find something, then it would be the roof over my head, or we've got food in the fridge. And I think just focusing on the positives keeps you above that line, even though you think you're sinking, it just keeps you above that line, to just keep focusing on the positives, no matter how small they are. And likewise now, the positives are like I'm spending quality time. Well, I'm not sure it's quality time with my family, but I'm spending more time with my family. And I appreciate the extra time that I've been able to spend with the lads. Also, I appreciate sending them back to school again, even more so. But it's just, if you can just focus on those positives, no matter how small, it just keeps your head above water.
Yes, that's true. I think that, like you say, focusing on those positives, and being grateful for them, it does raise your energy. You did say in the book that you'd read The Secret, so you know what I'm talking about there.
Oh, yeah.
Raising your energetic vibration, your vibrational energy, so that you can attract more things, more good things. So what words of encouragement do you have for those in our audience who are perhaps going through challenging times of their own right now, whether those are due to COVID stroke lockdown, or perhaps even just things which are challenging them in their own personal lives, nothing to do with COVID, but things which are challenging them? What words of encouragement would you have for our audience?
I do believe that there's always light at the end of the tunnel. I do believe that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I don't want to say a load of like cliche things, but as long as you can just think positive, then, like you say, positive things will happen. And I'm not saying you have to be positive all the time, because then that would be boring if you're on the same line all the time. People can't be positive all the time. You have to experience the rubbish to really, really appreciate the good. Yeah. And that's it. Just use it. If you're going through a bad patch or a bad stage, use it as, right, okay, this is my low point before I get a really, really good point in my life. And if you think like that, I do believe that good things will happen.
Absolutely, and I would totally agree with you on that, Irene. You do need, when you, and it helps you to focus on the positive to move forward towards more positive things as well, doesn't it? So yeah. Yes, totally agree with you there. So Do you have any particular plans for the future that you're particularly excited about?
Well, I did have. I was in talks for 2 months with a TV company to have a pilot made out to my show, to my book. And then one day I just got a call saying that because of funding, they couldn't do it. And that felt like I was being dumped by a boyfriend, to be fair. It was like something that would be life-changing for me. And just at a drop of a hat, went in one phone call. And initially I thought, right, that's it. I'm not contacting anybody else. And then I thought, you know what? They were interested for 2 months. So if they're interested for 2 months, then somebody else is going to be interested. So I'm on with writing my second book, and I'm hoping that I get a TV show. That's my dream anyway.
Absolutely. I mean, like you say, if one TV company was interested, and there's nothing to say that they won't come back to you. Perhaps, you know, when they do have more funding. Obviously things are tight, funds are tight for all of us in these current times, so it's something to look forward to. And the fact that a TV company has actually expressed interest in your book and interest in turning it into a TV show, then that says something about your book and your story. So that's something positive to I think to look at. So where can people get a copy of your book? Because it is a brilliant book, absolutely brilliant, and the story is so it is very entertaining and also very moving as well. I found myself laughing at places, and then when it hit those sad times, you know, I did actually I'm not ashamed to say that I did actually cry. I think you'd have to have a swinging brick for a heart to, you know. So, but where can people get a copy of your book if they want a copy?
It is available at Amazon and on Kindle as well at Amazon. But it's also, hopefully by after the end of this week, it'll be available at Waterstones online and any good bookstores online, hopefully.
Fantastic. So I'm going to open the floor to everybody else. If anybody has got any questions, either put them in the chat or just unmute yourself and shout out. Has anybody got any questions for Irene?
Okay, Irene.
Hi.
That was quite a story. And how did you go about getting published?
I self-published. So I got the book edited, formatted, and then just published it on Amazon myself. And a bit of a technophobe, so it caused a few stressful nights, but I got there in the end and got it on. So, and I will self-publish my second book as well.
Yes, it seems to be the thing just now. My wife keeps telling me I've got a novel in me someplace, but publishing is going to be fun.
Hello. Well, I've got a lady that I speak to who is a book mentor, and basically, like, for my second book now, because my first book was a bit of like therapy, you know, getting it all out of my head onto paper. Sure. It was like an inexpensive form of counselling. So the second book now is basically, I've got a big piece of paper and I've written down chapters that I want, and then that's going to be my plan. So that's the way forward with the second book. But yeah, fingers crossed.
Absolutely.
Good for you.
That was a great question. Sorry, Duncan. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you there. That was a great question, Duncan. And yes, I've actually published a book myself, so I can actually and I know what Irene is talking about there. It is your first book is very, very dramatic, you know, and it is a learning curve. So looking for, have you got a date for when your second book is planned to go out, or is it still on the cards at the moment?
No, I have to put a date in place, or else I won't do it, because I love procrastinating. So I've put March, which is a year to the day of when my first book was published, and then hopefully, think if things have changed slightly, I'll be able to do a bit of a book launch with both books. So March is the date that I'm gearing towards.
That's fantastic. So watch this space, everybody. Thank you very much, Irene, for joining us today, for sharing your story. It has been a very, very inspiring story. It's very moving, and there are lessons to be learned for both for life in general, but also for business as well. So I feel it's a very, very apt story, particularly in our current times. I think that the message that came through for me was, no matter how hard it is, keep pushing forward. And I think, as you said, Irene, to me in one of our conversations over Zoom beforehand, you can do it. You have got the strength in you. So no matter what you are going through, you have got the strength in you. And one of the things which we actually spoke about in our conversation was with regards to COVID. And I thought you made a very, very valid point with regards to the second lockdown that we are going into, or we are now in, here in the UK. You made a very valid point that it's not as strict or as hard a lockdown as the first one. And we all got through that lockdown. So if you got through that lockdown, then you can get through this lockdown too. So I think that's something positive to finish this section off on. Thank you very much. Thank you to Irene. I think we need to give Irene a round of applause. I think you have done an absolutely stunning job. Absolutely grateful. And yes, do have a look for Irene's book. It is an absolutely absorbing read, very entertaining, very, very moving. Yes, you will enjoy it. It'll be a great Christmas present for somebody who you want to encourage as well. So don't just buy one for yourself, buy one for a few friends who you want to encourage as Christmas presents. I think it would make a very good Christmas present. So thank you, Irene. Thank you to everybody else who has turned up on the call tonight. Do enjoy the rest of your evening, wherever you are, or the rest of your day. And until next time, take care, stay safe. Bye for now.